All right, everyone, we start off today with another important Trump pitch. The other night, he said that he vows to oppose the creation of a central bank digital currency. This is another win for Trump. And I have a feeling that Ramaswamy's influence over Trump on tech issues probably persuaded him to point this out. I have a feeling he was against it anyway, but sort of urge him to talk about it. So there's one for you. Central bank digital currency, for those that are living under a rock, of course, is the concept that the government's going to create a centralized digital currency, literally speaking, effectively to try to edge out Bitcoin and things like that, which have been cast off as being related to money laundering and terrorism and crime and things like that. And so Johnny Public and little Sally Sue over there, the soccer mom, they think that crypto is a scary thing and it's going to upend economies and there'll be another 9/11 and stuff like that. It's basically a fear-mongering operation. You get the normies to oppose crypto and not use it, and then you eventually muscle it out. What eventually they would do is they would force people to convert their crypto assets into the central bank digital currency. The problem is that it's a solution for which there's no problem to address, because there is no problem with crypto. In a free-ish market of exchanges and so forth, crypto is doing just fine. There have been people who've lost a lot of money, and there have been people that made a lot of money, and I have a feeling that it's really the latter that the government looks askance to. Who were the kind of people who tended to be early and often investors in things like Bitcoin? Libertarians, people who lean on the right side of politics more than leftoids. Not a whole lot of major leftist names became Bitcoin millionaires, for example. Well, now you have a bunch of assets and resources in the hands of people that argue for freer markets, because that's sort of the point of crypto anyway. They argue for more privacy. The government wants to be able to monitor every transaction and determine the value of that digital currency. Part of the selling point is, well, this creation of wealth out of thin air under crypto will harm the economy because you're basically artificially printing money. That's our job. We're the ones that are supposed to manipulate the currency. Otherwise, everything will go to hell. Again, though, that's just fear-mongering. We have not seen a destabilization of the US dollar by the creation of enormous sums of wealth via Bitcoin especially, nor the fluctuation of that wealth, which is, of course, just zeros and ones. But it's useful. Corporations have been buying in. The tell for the government, but before central bank digital currency was really a mainstream news topic, years and years ago, I warned about Facebook. You remember when they were trying to make LibraCoin. LibraCoin was backed by hundreds of companies, many of which were Fortune 500. The staggering amount of collective wealth that would have been invested in the creation of effectively Facebook crypto was something that the government smacked down almost immediately. They said, well, Mr. Zuckerberg, we urge you to reconsider. And then they leaned on all the companies that were prospectively going to invest in the project, and half of them dried up and died, and so Zuckerberg said, well, and this isn't going to work, and he dropped the issue. At the time, God, I think this was 6 years ago or something like this. I think this was before the formation of Meta, back when Facebook was standalone. At the time I said, clearly the government is doing this because they don't want a private competition. The benefit to the government of a centralized digital currency as opposed to crypto that's just invested in by their normal donor class buddies anyway is that it removes the middleman. They can centrally control its value. They can also censor people with it. And I'm sure that they'll heavily subsidize it and give people all sorts of perks and advantages to using a central bank digital currency, of course, should it arise. I'm sure that they'll make it as convenient as possible because they want to get everyone on board with it. Eventually, to the exclusion of even having fiat. They'll tie it in, by the way, to the climate change argument. Well, we're killing all these trees to, and I realize that dollars are printed on cotton, but never mind. Imagine the amount of land and the fertilizer that's involved. It's bad for the environment. We've got to stop this. So we're just going to issue zeros and ones that disappear the second that a hacker gets into the system, that disappear and are useless when you have a power outage, etc., etc., etc. Sort of like the EV scam. Power outage for 3 days. Oh, sorry, I can't come into work because I can't use my car. Ta-da! It's the same thing. Trump vowing to oppose it, I think, is a very positive thing, and he's really been on the up and up on like the tech and privacy and free market thing since day one in the 24 campaign. You'll remember the very first campaign message that he put out, the Agenda 47 on Rumble, was him talking about an Internet Bill of Rights, which I praised him heavily for at the time, and reforming Section 230. In fact, when I looked through it, it was almost exactly the points that I was making myself, verbatim. So obviously I agree with that basic plan. We'll see how far it goes, but when he's reelected, and I think that's likely to happen, at the very least for a few years, we don't have to worry about the government coming in, wrecking crypto, wrecking, internet sales, etc., by exerting undue control over digital finance. Right now, they're already moving in that direction. The SEC going after Odyssey, for example, comes to mind, suing several exchanges into bankruptcy. It ain't just FTX and actual crime that's the problem. The government comes in and creates problems too. Well, you didn't document line 450 well enough, so, you owe us $10 million. They've been doing shit like that this entire time. The opposition to a central bank digital currency is very, very important. It would stifle free speech. You know that they would lock your bank account and prevent you from engaging in any commerce. Mark of the beast sound familiar? Not a believer in Revelation, but it would fit much more than barcodes or RFID implants or something like that. You know that they'll make a bunch of caveats eventually, a bunch of rules about what can be done with it. So yeah, we're not comfortable with our digital currency being used to buy weapons, for example. And in court they'll say, well, you have the right to bear arms, but you're going to have to buy them via a different method. We've absorbed the whole online marketplace, so you're no longer going to be able to get things shipped in the manner that you currently can. We think that you should only be able to withdraw a certain amount of money. We think you should only have the ability to draw a certain portion of your money, like to in the transitional period to convert it to fiat or something like that, or put it on a debit card. They'll make it rule-based and heavily regulated, and that original usefulness is just a facade. Eventually, it's more about control. Oh, it'll still be useful. The thing is, you won't have a choice but to use it, and you'll have to follow all sorts of fucking rules. They'll make absolutely sure to stymie it in the end. They'll make absolutely sure that it robs you of more liberty. So we must oppose its creation at all hazards. That's about all. Peace out.